time has come for the Cobra to rise up and reveal himself.
How do we use this 20-something trillion dollars, this massive number, how do we break it down to determine economic health? And the main way we do that, the most important breakdown of this number, is called real GDP growth rate. This is the period to period, and when we say periods, we're usually talking about quarter to quarter, every 3 months, and also year over year, but usually quarter over quarter, and that's 3-month period in a row to the next 3-month period in a row. And we're looking at the percentage increase or decrease of spending in each quarter. So the percentage increase or decrease of spending in each quarter. And the formula is the change in periods, so real GDP period 2 minus real GDP period 1 divided by real GDP period 1 times 100 to give you that percentage, and you have the real GDP growth rate. 3 to 4% is considered a healthy economy. So that means every quarter the US economy is spending 3 to 4% more than it did the previous quarter. 1 to 2% is considered slow growth. So let's say if quarter 1 it's 4% growth, quarter 2 it's 1% growth. This is not an economy, this is not negative. It was not a negative 3%. This means that we grew at a rate 1% greater than the previous quarter. So it's slowing down. That's not good, because something's probably wrong with the economy. So quarter 1, 4%, good growth. If quarter 2 is 1%, that is not negative growth. That is still 1% greater than so quarter 2 grew at a rate 1% greater than quarter 1. However, this is not a good, even though it's still positive growth from the previous quarter. However, it's a little dangerous. This is the slow growth area because it's dangerously close to negative growth. And anything under 0, anything negative, means that this is a shrinking or contracting economy. We are spending less money than the previous quarter. As the economy is shrinking, it's contracting, less money is going around and around the circular flow model than the previous quarter. And if there's less spending in the circular flow model, well, that means that unemployment is probably increasing as less spending is happening in the product market. That is less revenue for businesses. What happens when businesses have less revenue? Layoffs happen. So we could assume negative economic growth is unemployment is increasing. It's going to create, going back to unemployment, it's going to create cyclical unemployment. And 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth is the textbook definition of recession. So let's say it was quarter 1, 4%, quarter 2, 1%, quarter 3, negative 3%, quarter 4, negative 2%, because these numbers are negative, so this negative 2% is still bad. This means it's negative 2% of the previous quarter, and then this would be a recession. So real GDP growth rate is the best measurement of economic health, because we could assume that as spending is increasing, that spending is creating jobs. So really, like the other economic indicators trickle from the growth rate. We could assume that as spending is healthy, unemployment is decreasing, and as spending is negative, unemployment is increasing, and 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, we are officially in a recession in which you're going to see unemployment at a rate uncomfortably above 4%. So the final 2 things we can do with the total real GDP, again, the most important thing we do is the growth rate. But we could also tell 2 other interesting things about economic health of the country with it. One is what is called real GDP per capita, in which we take that total massive trillion dollar number divided by the population, and what we have is our national standard of living. As we take that $1 trillion number divided by the amount of people in the country, that number gives you the amount that each house, the average amount that each household is spending on newly produced goods and services. And that would call our national standard, that are people buying new things? And what is the dollar value of the new things that, new goods and services that the households are buying? And this we call our national standard, our standard of living. So, and price stability, GDP can also be used, as we referenced before, we have to do nominal versus real. So GDP can also tell us price stability, how are prices changing from year to year. The real GDP deflator, this is called the real GDP deflator, in which we take the nominal GDP divided by the real GDP, times it by 100, and what you have is a percent difference in prices. And it's called the deflator because it's almost like a balloon. You have this big nominal number, you take the year out of it, and now you have the real GDP. So what is the difference, the percent difference between the original balloon and the real balloon? And that percent difference is your price stability or the deflator. And a big multiple choice trick question is the GDP deflator versus the CPI. Because both are used to measure price stability, but both cover different economic realms of price stability. GDP is much more inclusive of the entire economy. It is C plus I plus G plus NX. So this is more, GDP deflator is more the national economy. It includes capital goods and no imports. Imports are excluded from GDP. There's no base year, you see formula-wise, no base year needed. It's all within the current year. And again, because it is C plus I plus G plus NX, it is only products that are made and sold this year. It has to hit those requirements of is it counted or not. Whereas CPI, it is only consumer goods and services. And this is why the CPI, and with the inflation rate, this is the number that you hear more, because it's the number that's based on consumers and more important to consumers. Like a tractor, consumers don't care, the urban consumer doesn't care about. So that's why CPI is the more popular of the two numbers. It is only consumer goods. Consumers buy imports all the time. We need, formula-wise, we need that base year, the CPI this period minus CPI base period divided by CPI base period times 100 gives us the inflation rate. And it also includes that items that were made in the previous year but put on inventory this year, but now their prices went up. And so the CPI, more pertinent number, however, GDP deflator can also tell us about price stability. So this is the third GDP, the third of the three economic indicators, and holistically, all of the indicators are used to measure the health of the economy. Thank you for watching. Remember, in Cobranomics, whether it is your money, your mind, or your body, invest hard, invest often, and no feelings. Money never sleeps. We'll see you next time.